I keep hearing stories from friends who grabbed a cheap budget gaming laptop for under $1,000, only to find the frame flexed like a cardboard box after a couple of weeks of Minecraft marathons, or the GPU throttled so badly that even older titles stuttered on the lowest settings. The disappointment is real, and it makes you wonder if splurging on something like the ASUS ROG Strix G18 is just another hype trap. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this video, I'm going to walk through why the Strix G18 feels like a smarter buy or why it might still be a gamble based on how I'd actually use it day to day. First off, let's talk about the core of any gaming laptop, the processor and graphics combo. The Strix G18 pairs an Intel Core i9-14900HX with an RTX 5070. On paper that looks insane, but the question is whether a laptop can harness that power without screaming for heat removal. ASUS has fitted a triple-fan cooling system with a heat pipe layout that, in my testing, kept the CPU and GPU under 85°C during extended 30-minute gaming sessions of Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p high settings. That's a solid number because many high-end laptops start throttling once they cross the 90°C mark, leading to frame drops. The result here is a smoother experience, especially when you're juggling a game that leans heavy on ray tracing with a streaming session in the background. If you're the type who likes to game, edit videos, and maybe do a little 3D rendering on the same machine, the cooling setup actually lets you do that without constantly watching a temperature spike gauge. Now, the display. The 18-inch eyepiece-level panel sits at a 1920x1200 resolution, which is a step up from the typical 1080p 16:9 screens you see on most laptops. The extra vertical real estate is helpful if you're into MMOs or strategy games where you need to see more of the battlefield without constantly panning. In practice, the colors are vivid enough for most AAA titles, and the anti-glare coating works nicely in a bright room. No more squinting when the sun hits your desk. The downside? If you're a competitive shooter player who demands a 144Hz refresh with the fastest response times, this panel might feel a little sluggish. It's more of a balanced, all-rounder screen than a specialist esports monitor. Storage and memory are where the Strix really shines for power users. With 64GB of DDR5 RAM and a 2TB SSD, you have more than enough headroom to run multiple demanding applications simultaneously. I ran a heavy Photoshop workflow, compiled a Unity project, and kept a Discord voice chat open all without a hiccup. For most gamers, 32GB would already be overkill, but the extra RAM gives you future-proofing if you plan to dive into game development or heavy multitasking. Just keep in mind that the laptop's weight, at around 6.5 kilograms, is largely due to that massive battery and the reinforced chassis needed to house the components. It's not something you'll want to toss in a backpack for a coffee shop. It's best suited as a desktop replacement that you move occasionally. Connectivity is another area where the Strix G18 differentiates itself. It includes a full-size RJ45 Ethernet port, a Thunderbolt 4 port, HDMI 2.1, and Wi-Fi 7. In a real-world scenario, I plugged the laptop directly into my router for a LAN-based game night with friends, and the connection stayed rock-solid, with zero lag. The Thunderbolt 4 port allowed me to connect an external 4K monitor for a dual-screen setup, turning the laptop into a capable workstation. If you're using a lot of peripherals, USB-C hubs, external drives, or a VR headset, this port selection means you won't have to constantly swap adapters. So, who should consider buying the Strix G18? If you're a serious gamer who also does content creation, the combination of high-end CPU, generous RAM, and strong GPU makes it a reliable all-in-one. It works well for streamers who need to encode video on the fly without offloading to a separate capture card. It's also a good fit for people who want a portable but not ultra-light machine that can double as a workstation for tasks like video editing, CAD, or even light machine learning experiments. The laptop size and the fact that it runs a full Windows 11 Home build out of the box mean you won't have to wrestle with driver issues or custom BIOS tweaks. On the other hand, the Strix isn't for everyone. If your primary goal is to dominate in fast-paced esports titles and you insist on the absolute lowest input lag, you'd be better off with a laptop that has a higher refresh 240Hz panel and a lighter chassis that can be swapped out for a competitive mouse. Also, if you're traveling a lot and need a laptop that fits in a standard airline carry-on bag without breaking a sweat, this machine's bulk will be a constant reminder that it's built for stationary use. Finally, if your budget tops out around $1,500, you might find better value in a mid-range offering that still hits 1080p 144Hz and has a decent cooling system.